Assalamu alaikum, viewers at home. Welcome back from the ad break. You are still watching Prime Live. Now, the Eastern DRC is in the spotlight this week after advances by M23 militants. A diplomatic spat has also surfaced with Rwanda's President Paul Kagame calling South Africa's President Cyril Ramaphosa a liar and the SNDF troops not fit to maintain peace in the volatile region. Now, for the latest from the DRC itself, I welcome the President of Africa 55, Dr. Charles Sinkala. Good evening, sir, and welcome to Prime Live.
Greetings to you. Thank you very much, and greetings to the viewers.
Now, obviously, to just start off with the conversation, we do know that the latest we are hearing from DRC is that the M23 rebels are advancing past the east city of Goma with plans to march towards Kinshasa. What are you hearing on the ground?
Well, the situation on the ground is not quite safe. Yes, there's those speculations, but the armed forces and the Democratic Republic of Congo forces are actually preventing that escalation to what may be termed as well that the escalation of the military juntas and militia to the capital, Kinshasa.
So now Rwanda is threatening South Africa, and I think I said that in the intro, and vice versa, to go to war. How did we get to this point, and do you believe a diplomatic solution can still be found?
First of all, I would like to say that it's quite disappointing when the two heads of states they interact themselves by media in terms of what has happened and the telephone conversation thereof that President Ramaphosa had with his counterpart, President Paul Kagame. There must be something that we are not being told, what these people are discussing. And I think there's an element that I suggest that they do not know exactly the causation of these conflicts here in Goma and the eastern part of DRC. Many of the people are actually focusing on the M23 and their connection to Rwanda, but there's more than 100 militias, rebels in this country, different groups representing different organizations. Among them, there's also mercenaries. Others as well have been sent as private and military security companies to protect the mineral companies that are doing exploration and taking minerals from the eastern part. But what we can say now at this moment is that the hope for the diplomatic talks, it's actually muted until that the dust settles down. Then we can start talking as heads of states and government in terms of bilateral and multilateral relations.
No, you definitely made a good point there. So now we do know that the DRC President Felix Tshisekedi has blamed the international community for its silence on what he described as Rwandan barbarity. Are you satisfied that the UN Security Council will act strongly on this?
I don't think it's wise for a couple to blame the affairs of their house. President Felix Tshisekedi, he must come open, to deal with the actual problems that he's facing in this country. First of all, their international policy in terms of armed groups and the escalation of military in the country is the Congo DRC themselves who's been inviting these multinational military support to pretend to be protecting the citizens who are actually not doing so, because the AU and the United Nations Security Council made an agreement that by 2020, 2020, which has passed, that we shall hand down the guns and military. But if you look at the escalation of military support just from South Africa alone, sending more than 1 million soldiers, to go and fight, more than 1,000 soldiers rather, to go and fight in DRC armed, you cannot stop fire with fire. We need some parties that can be on the table to discuss the situation. So, yes, you can blame the international community, especially the United Nations, who's been in DRC for more than 70 years, but he must take charge of his country. He must provide peace and security for his citizens to make sure that he collaborates with regional organizations and regional heads of states and government to make sure that they coil down the conflicts that are happening now. I can give you a very quickly example as well that yesterday, the East African community convened a very urgent meeting, which was chaired by President Ruto from Kenya, where Paul Kagame as well was there to explain his part. But it was shockingly surprised that President Felix Tshisekedi decided not to attend that meeting. So these are issues that just tells you how deep the divide is and any prospects of diplomatic coiling down of the tensions within that region.
The Congo has been described as Africa's longest war, which has killed more than 5 million people. It is also the richest country in the world in terms of precious minerals. Would you say this is the main motivation for this war?
Well, I always believe that people doesn't fight for nothing. All these wars that we are seeing, the Russian invasion in Ukraine, the escalation of military in terms of between Israel and Palestine, and many others within the world, especially where we are talking about now in DRC, it has always been fought on the economical battle, who gets the share of what. But for this fight and conflict within the DRC, there's many factors that are now intertwined. You remember there's also a connection between the ethnic groups, the Hutus and the Tutsis, who also participated in the genocide of Rwanda in the year 2000 and 1994. Those elements has been a belief that I hear on the ground that certain groups of society are not wanted in the Eastern Congo. They regard them to be foreigners. They regard them not to be enjoying the prospects of those minerals which are there, and that they must leave. So that's why you can see that they're actually fighting. And in this time on earth, one needs to understand why these conflicts of tribal and ethnic groups are escalating, instead of uniting and working together. But external forces has been extremely, fueling these conflicts, notwithstanding the fact that there's 450 ethnic groups in Democratic Republic of Congo, which also makes it difficult for them to unite and work together.
Finally, before I let you know, 13 SNDF soldiers have died in the Eastern DRC. South Africans are asking why we are involved and should we not withdraw from this whole thing right now. What is your opinion on that?
My opinion is I agree with former President Fidel Castro, who said at one point that Cuba were never going to send soldiers and arms and ammunition, but Cuba was ready to send doctors and nurses. That's my short answer for that.
Completely understood. But thank you so much for joining us and just for giving us your insight and keeping us well informed on this topic.
Thank you. It's a pleasure. Thank you for inviting me.
Thank you so much. Viewers at home, that was a very amazing conversation that I just had. Thank you so much for joining us, and we will be having more on Prime Live this evening, so stay tuned. I'll see you after this.